Right now in South Korea, a 34-year-old woman who graduated from an elite university and owns her own apartment in the middle of Seoul is telling the entire world that she is failing. She stands 5'9", she has a stable job at a massive corporation, and she has the kind of face that people usually pay for at a clinic. But despite having every single trophy on the shelf, she cannot find a man to marry her. She has tried the professional matchmaking agencies that charge thousands of dollars just for an introduction. She has swiped until her thumbs are sore on every dating app in the city. She has gone to every social mixer and blind date her friends could throw at her, and the result is always the same: nothing. Now, she's all over social media talking about how she is finally ready to marry down, acting like she is doing the world a favor by lowering her standards. But the truth is much darker than a simple change of heart. But why would a woman who seems to have everything actually demand a man who has even more? Why is she stuck? When you peel back the skin on this, you find a raw, parasitic resource grab. This woman spent her 20s and 30s grinding for the best labels because she was told that life is a game of stacking up assets to trade for a bigger prize later. To her, a man is not just a partner, he is a financial boost and a social shield. She wants a man who stands at least 5'11" because she refuses to feel physically dominant in a relationship. She wants a man from a specific tier of universities because she wants her children to have the right brand of DNA. It is not about love, it is about a calculated attempt to steal a bigger piece of the financial pie at someone else's expense. She thinks her apartment and her degree are chips she can cash in, but she is realizing the casino is already closed. So why does the culture in Seoul actually create this environment where people treat each other like used cars? It comes down to the way this place functions as a giant grading machine. From the time they are toddlers, these people are taught that their value is a number on a page. The woman in this story is a product of that machine. She thinks her elite degree and her property are universal currency. But in the real world, the marriage market does not care about your diploma if you are 34 and 5'9". Men in this society are taught to be the providers, the ones who bring the strength and the resources. When a man who already has money and a career looks at a woman who has the same things, he does not see a partner. He sees a competitor. He sees someone who is high maintenance and unlikely to follow his lead. The very things she worked so hard for are the things that make her look like a bad investment to the men she actually wants. What happens when these women get exactly what they asked for? What happens when they finally find that 1% man who meets every single criteria on their list? This is where the hypocrisy really starts to stink. A man who is 6 feet tall, earns 6 figures, and comes from a top-tier family has no reason to pick a 34-year-old woman who is past her prime in the eyes of traditional society. These men are looking for youth. They are looking for flexibility. They want a woman who brings something different to the table, not a woman who brings a mirror image of their own bank account. The woman complains that she's marrying down, but she is actually being forced to face her real market value. She is like a luxury car with 100,000 miles on the odometer trying to sell for the original sticker price. When she realizes no one is buying, she screams that the men are the problem, but the logic of self-interest is simply working against her. Why is the system failing so spectacularly right now? It is failing because it treats a human union like a corporate merger. When you try to quantify things like chemistry and connection using tax records and height charts, you end up with a deadlock. This woman is an outlier. Most men in her country are shorter than she is. Most men do not have her level of education. By setting her floor so high, she has effectively excluded 95% of the male population. She is waiting for a prince who already has 5,000 other women clawing at his door, and most of those women are 10 years younger than she is. The meritocratic contract she signed said if she worked hard, she would get everything. But the contract had a massive hole in it. It never mentioned that while she was busy building her career, her biological clock was ticking and her social freshness was rotting away. This is not just about one woman crying on Instagram. This is about a whole generation of people who have optimized themselves into a corner. They have become so focused on their specifications that they have forgotten how to be human. The men are checking out because the cost of entry is too high. The women are holding out because they refuse to lose face. It is a game of chicken where everyone loses. The woman in this case is a warning sign. She is a high-value asset in a market that has no liquidity. She is a fortress that no one wants to invade because the gold inside is something the potential conquerors already have. The tragedy is that she thinks she is the prize, but to the market she is just a product that stayed on the shelf too long. Think about the sheer arrogance of calling it marrying down. It implies that she is superior to the men she is now considering. It shows that even in her desperation she cannot let go of the ego that her elite education gave her. She is still looking for a way to stay the protagonist of a story that is already over. She wants a high-utility partner who will do the emotional labor and provide the safety she craves, but she offers nothing but her past achievements. She is looking for a servant dressed as a king, and the men see right through it. They see the fear behind the Instagram filters. They see a woman who is terrified of being the last one left in her family, terrified of being labeled a failure by a society that only respects winners. The fallout from this is spreading like a virus. Other women see her struggle and they get angry. They blame the men for being intimidated or for having low standards. They claim that the system is rigged against successful women, but they ignore the cold, hard facts of human desire. You cannot force a man to want a 34-year-old career woman any more than you can force a woman to want a man who lives in his parents' basement. The hypocrisy is that these women want the freedom of the modern world but the traditional protection of the old world. They want to be the boss at work and the princess at home. But you cannot have both when the men you want are looking for someone who doesn't come with a resume and a list of demands. In the end, this is the rise of the specification mercenaries. We are moving toward a future where marriage is just a contract for mutual resource optimization. If this woman ever does find a man, it will likely be a cold merger. There will be no sparks, no heat, just a careful calculation of how much each person brings to the household budget. It is a sterile, lonely way to live, but it is the only thing left when you treat your life like a spreadsheet. She spent her life polishing her shell, making it shiny and hard and perfect. And now she is shocked to find that people are looking for softness. They are looking for someone to build a life with, not a corporate partner to manage an apartment with. The final mockery is that her greatest achievements have become her greatest obstacles. Her degree makes her arrogant. Her apartment makes her independent in a way that excludes a partner. Her height makes her a physical outlier. She is a limited edition object in a desert. There is no one around to appreciate the craftsmanship because everyone is too busy looking for water. She is a luxury bag in a deserted mall. Beautiful, expensive, and completely useless for the task of survival. She is the face of a collapsing social contract, a woman who did everything right according to the rules, only to find out that the rules were a lie. She is the elite girl who has it all, except for the one thing she actually needs. Right now in South Korea, the air is thick with this kind of desperation. You can smell the fear in the high-end coffee shops and the expensive bars. It is the fear of being left behind. It is the fear of being the one who didn't make the cut. And as long as people keep looking for their mirror image instead of a human connection, the deadlock will only get worse. The woman in this story is not a victim. She is a participant in a game she helped create. She wanted a world where specs are everything, and now she has to live in it. She has all the trophies, but the stadium is empty. She is the queen of a kingdom of one. Why does she keep posting about it? Why doesn't she just live her life? Because in her world, if it isn't on social media, it isn't real. She needs the validation of strangers to prove that she is still valuable. She needs people to tell her that she is too good for the men she is meeting. It is a defensive mechanism against the reality of her situation. She is trying to control the narrative before society labels her a failure. She is trying to rebrand her desperation as a choice. But everyone can see the cracks in the armor. Everyone can see that she is just a lonely woman who realized too late that you can't cuddle a diploma at night. The men in their late 30s who have the specs she wants are not interested in her drama. They are looking for peace. They are looking for a woman who doesn't treat every conversation like a job interview. They want someone who will support them, not someone who will constantly remind them of her own status. The high-spec woman is a high-pressure partner. She brings the stress of the corporate world into the bedroom. And for a man who is already fighting that battle every day, that is the last thing he wants to come home to. He wants a sanctuary, not another boardroom. So the cycle continues. The women get more bitter, the men get more distant, and the birth rate keeps dropping towards zero. It is a society that is literally working itself to death. They have created a world where the only way to win is to be perfect, but being perfect makes you impossible to love. The woman at the center of this story is just the latest casualty. She is a warning to every girl who thinks that stacking up specs is the secret to happiness. It might get you a nice apartment in Seoul, but it won't get you a home. It won't get you a partner who sees you for who you are instead of what you have. You have to wonder what she will do when she turns 35. On the Korean marriage market, that is the point of no return. That is when the matchmakers move you to the bottom of the pile. That is when the labels don't matter anymore because the biological clock has drowned out everything else. Will she finally lower her standards for real, or will she double down on her bitterness? Will she become a specification mercenary, hiring a younger man to play the role of a husband? Or will she remain a fortress, standing tall and alone in the middle of a city that has moved on without her? The irony is that she is 175 centimeters tall, standing above the very men she wants to protect her. She is a physical metaphor for the entire problem. She has grown too big for the environment she lives in. She has outpaced the market, out-educated the men, and out-earned her peers. And now she is surprised that there is no space left for her to fit in. She is a giant in a world built for smaller people. And instead of shrinking her ego, she is demanding that the world grow to match her. But the world doesn't work that way. The world moves on cold, hard logic. And the logic says that she is an overpriced asset in a crashing market. Fuel the truth at dating in Korea. Support the structure. Stay safe in the lounge.